If I asked you what the picture of peak physical attraction looks like, who would you point me to? Chris Hemsworth? Henry Cavill? Brad Pitt? Those are some good choices overall, but unfortunately, they're all objectively wrong when compared to one man. Please, allow me to introduce you all to Eugene von Krakatoa. Just look at him. That big broken nose, those Dobby the Elf ears, his squished in peepers, and that jaw-dropping masculine physique. This is the hero that's gonna save the wasteland, and he's gonna do it with only throwables. So yeah, my journey started out as ordinary as ever. I said good morning to my beautiful baby boy, who somehow didn't pop out as a monster even though he inherited my genes. Telepathically drank some fresh coffee Codsworth had just made, and took stock of everything we had in our fridge. Yeah, we weren't doing so well. Out of nowhere, my son began crying, and when I went over to see what was going on, I couldn't believe my damn eyes.
Evil, 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 evil. Evil, evil, evil. Evil.
Codsworth, what the hell are you doing?
Now, don't you touch the laundry. I'll take care of it.
Oh god. Honey, grab the shotgun. Grab the shot. Before I could protect my family though, a suspicious looking man showed up at our front door and it was obvious that he wanted something. I tried signaling to the guy that I didn't want anything to do with him, but no matter how much time passed and no matter what activity I decided to do, the guy just wouldn't leave. Being the manly man I am, I headed directly for the guy and told him I wasn't interested in whatever it was he was selling. The man argued, saying something about a vault and the saving of lives. It was in one ear and out the other with me. I told him to leave before I grabbed my shotgun, and again, he refused to leave.
Go away.
Won't take but a moment. We do need to verify some information.
Oh my god. Honey, grab the shotgun. At that moment, my wife stepped in and told me to do what he wanted. Huh? I told her to piss off, and the damn wench told me that she didn't care what I had to say. Excuse me? You do realize this is the 50s, right? The guy at the door took this opportunity to confuse me and took down all of my information. Since I've never really played a lot of Fallout in my life, I didn't really know what to go for here, so bam, ran to my stats. I probably should have looked at the perk tree before going sicko mode with it, but whatever, dude. It was fine. So yeah, the president warned us about our imminent nuclear annihilation. I abandoned my wife and child in hopes of escaping to safety. We got lowered into some nuclear bunker that was conveniently built a few feet away from our house. We followed this random vault guy into a spooky looking room, and it was here we were tricked into cryogenic chambers. I was told that the chambers would pump super serum into my veins, and because I wasn't the strongest kid on the block, I fell for the bait hook and sinker. I thought I could trust him. Look at those eyes. All I could do was watch as my family and I were involuntarily frozen. Then something happened. Time passed and a man showed up, shot my wife, and took my son. To be honest, I wasn't too heartbroken about my wife since she mouth-offed at me back at the house, but my son? That was a completely different story. That little boy was my property, damn it. I wasn't just gonna let some hooligan kidnap him without monetary compensation. Before I could do anything about it though, I was forced to go back to sleep. The only good news in the situation was that the man who kidnapped my boy showed himself to me, and that was a face I swore I'd never forget. Some more time passed, and then out of the blue, I was freed. I immediately booked it out the door. I scurried past the little critters, grabbed some loot on the way, and desperately searched for a way out. Since I had no good way to defend myself, I was essentially a walking bag of food for the rad roaches, and at one point, they almost killed me. Thankfully though, I was able to lose them further into the vault and I made my escape. And so, I emerged from that place like a warrior, with only one objective in mind: to get my son back. And also to kill that man in the most brutal, horrifying way possible. Of course, the outside world was changed compared to when I first went into the vault. It was depressing now, filled with bandits and monsters and all kinds of groups and tribes. Dear lord, how long had I been asleep for? It had to at least have been a few days, maybe even a few weeks. If I was gonna get my son back, I'd need to hurry. My first order of business was to find my first weapon. This was a bit of a problem, mostly because I wasn't super familiar with how things worked around here. Could I find some Molotovs and loot? Find some grenades at a store? Or did I have to make everything from scratch? I had no idea. Either way, I tried my best. I looted house after house with no luck. I spoke to Codsworth, who was miraculously still alive, and he had no bright ideas. Then I was chased. A radroach had tracked me down from the vault, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. That is, until I looted the mailbox. Inside were 2 fragmentation grenades, the very first throwables of my adventure and a means to finally defend myself. Except I didn't know how rare finding grenades like that was, so instead of getting some sweet revenge on that little bastard, I decided to run away with my tail tucked between my legs. A short time later, I ended up meeting Dogmeat, a doggy companion who was willing to risk his life to protect me. I appreciated that, of course, but something was bothering me. This wasteland. It was a dangerous place. Death was lurking around every corner, just waiting to sink its venomous teeth into me. If I was gonna survive the harshness of this world, I'd need to ditch the soy boy clothes and put on something that said, "Don't mess with me." Oh yeah, I was feeling good. At that moment, my entire personality changed. No longer would I be the weak, pathetic man who ran from even the slightest hint of danger.
Fucking Christ.
Trying my absolute hardest to people please and make friends wherever I went. No, I was a bad boy now. A delinquent who spoke his mind and solved all his problems with sarcasm and violence. Unless I was against somebody stronger than me, then I'd grovel and beg on my knees, but other than that, I was a bad boy. I ended up making my way to a city where there was a great battle taking place. I had no idea what was happening, so I just stayed out of it. And wouldn't you believe it? Once all of the raiders were dead, some random mission completed, and I was able to level up. Oh hell yeah, finally some good luck. The perk I picked was Demolition Expert, which let my explosives do 25% more damage, and I was now able to craft them at workbenches. Clearly, I owed these people some words of gratitude. So, I headed into the building they were in, quickly found out that there were enemies on the inside, threw my very first grenade, and blew my own arm off in the process. So I tried again, but this time I actually ran away from the grenade when I threw it, and just look at what happened. I killed her this time! My first kill! Oh! It was so fun. I did have to be careful though. I only had a handful of Throwables left, so if I was gonna do this, I was gonna have to do it smart. I killed this guy, then these guys, and when everything was said and done, I'd already wiped out the entire place. In the next room, Preston, the leader of some squad or whatever, thanked me. He said they'd never have been able to escape without a cool guy like me helping out, and that I was surely an angel sent from the heavens above. I told him to stop glazing me and to just pay me already, but Preston wasn't willing to do that. Not until I killed the rest of the raiders first. That was when his boy with the powdered wig came up to me and said that I could use the power armor and minigun on the roof. So, basically, they were trying to sabotage the challenge. Wow, great reward for going out of my way to help you guys, huh? I lied by saying I'd help them, took the key to the power armor, and immediately bounced. Should have paid me what I was owed, idiot. It felt good to be off on my own. Scavenging the land for loot and spare parts really made me feel like I was on the right path, you know? During this little nighttime adventure, I came across a woman who asked if I wanted to trade, and seeing an opportunity to buy some Throwables, I said yes. And then she went to sleep. I didn't know what the hell was happening. Yo, we trading or what, Grandma? Brother, am I the only non-crazy one around here? Oh, great. Yeah, she doesn't have a damn thing worth buying. Thanks for wasting my time, wench. Anyway, I leveled up again after entering a town and put my next perk into Bloody Mess, which boosted my damage by 5%. With nothing better to do, I just eluded for the rest of the night. The plan was to gather as many supplies as possible in hopes of creating a bunch of Throwables at a chemistry station. I wasn't entirely sure what objects broke down into what, but I just figured that out later. Heading over to the Red Rocket truck stop back near my place, I began my crazy chemist arc. And wow. Molotovs cost 4 oil each? That may not seem like much when you first look at it, but trust me, that's the problem. Having to scrounge around for minutes on end just to make 1 or 2 measly Molotovs was not sustainable at all. If I was gonna make it through this challenge within the next century, I was gonna have to find something more efficient, more worth my time. As I was out and about scavenging for the tiniest pieces of oil, I came across a settlement. A man there, who totally jacked my style by the way, told me that he'd let me in, but only under the condition that I take a personality test. Oh no. If I did that, my psychopathic tendencies would immediately be seen through, and this guy would make sure everyone in the wasteland knew it. I was gonna have to— Oh, Jesus Christ, I'm trying to take a test here! The damn bastard got me when I wasn't looking, and Mr. Fashion Thief brought it upon himself to protect me. I was thankful, of course, but he still wanted me to take the damn test, even after that traumatic experience. Jesus Christ, man, have a heart. But whatever. I could do it. I took the damn test. And you know what? All that came out of my mouth was lies. When asked if I'd beat a man to death, I objected. I said I'd cuddle and play with him. When asked what I'd do if a brat of a child came up to me and called me ugly, instead of saying I'd smash them over the head with a beer bottle, I told him I'd laugh about it and pat the little tyke on the head. I made sure to give the best, safest answers to everything, and when all was said and done, the man passed me with flying colors. He said I was an ideal citizen. Woo! Flying for the win, baby, hell yeah! Now, for the most part, this town didn't have much to offer me. I mean, I did steal some of their crops and robbed every one of their most valuable belongings, but yeah, getting in here wasn't really worth it. At least until I came across the store. Penny, the owner of the store, had 3 Molotovs for sale. I couldn't believe it. They were expensive, no doubt, but what the hell else would I spend my money on? This was a great discovery, especially considering the fact that I was able to sell all of my ammo for 1 cap each. At this point, I was basically rolling in the dough. Feeling more confident in myself now, I headed back over to Preston's crib and decided to help my boy out. I was a good person after all, and I was willing to do charitable acts if it led to my good reputation increasing. That is, until I realized the guy wanted me to kill a damn Deathclaw for him. A Deathclaw. This piece of garbage. He was trying to pull a fast one on me, huh? Kill a Deathclaw. Is he insane? It must have been his way of getting revenge for stealing that power armor earlier, sending me to my death like that. Well, you know what? You know what, Mr. Preston, huh? Challenge accepted. I'll do it. And when I do, I'll be expecting you to kiss my feet in thanks. Yeah, so, it wasn't that simple. What was supposed to be an easy fight with a power armor suit and minigun turned into a terrifying battle with no good way for me to win. I mean, going against this lad was like going up against a tank while being butt-ass naked. But, I couldn't just turn back now. Not after all that shit talk. So I fought. I fought and I fought and I fought, but it just wasn't working. The guy was too strong. He caught me and forced me to breakdance to my death. He annihilated me with a 1-2 combo. He even sent some poor soul to the moon.
Oh my goodness, look at that. We just caught ourselves a falling star.
There was just no winning. But then, I had a brilliant idea. Mr. Deathclaw was too big to fit into the nearby buildings, so why not hide in them? Yeah, that would work. Like a little rat, I'd throw Molotovs from below while Preston took aim with his little laser gun and fired down from above. It was a foolproof plan, and guess what? It worked beautifully. The Deathclaw was dead, and I was on to greener pastures. Thankful for all my help, Preston asked me if I wanted to set up camp with them back in Sanctuary, but I declined. Being surrounded by a bunch of illegitimate posers like them would only tank my good reputation, and I wasn't about to let that happen. Preston said he understood and sadly walked back to Sanctuary with his little group of losers. Next up on my to-do list was Diamond City. If anyone knew where my son was being kept, it'd be someone there. When I got there, some naggy woman at the front gate tried to rope me into some kind of scheme, desperately trying to get me to lie for her so that they'd open the gate, even without me saying a damn word. The fools fell for her lies and they let us in. I didn't appreciate this psychopath roping me into her complicated web of deception, so I told her next time she did that, I'd smash her goddamn head against the nearest brick wall.
Whoa, take it easy, yikes.
Anyway, I was now inside Diamond City.
They have my son.
They have my son!
The place was great. It had tons of vendors, lots to do, and was overall a pretty upbeat place. However, something odd happened when I went into the local motel. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was being a bit naughty. I was robbing the place like I usually did when I first showed up in a town, and like always, I made absolutely sure nobody saw me. And if they did, I took care of it. Things were all good when I was done, and I even chatted it up with the owner of the joint. It seemed like I got away with it, but when I stepped outside, all hell broke loose. Jesus Christ, was it a setup? Who tattled on me? I had no choice but to circle the entire city, then camp out far away for the next couple of days while the heat died down. God, it wasn't like I killed someone or anything. These people were way too high-strung. I returned to the city a week later when they all magically forgot about my crimes, and I was ready and willing to get some clues on my little baby boy. Piper, the girl who roped me into that whole situation at the entrance, was willing to help me if I gave her an interview from the perspective of a vault dweller. So alright, I gave her one, answering sarcastically and negatively to every single question she posed to me. I could tell she didn't appreciate it, but it wasn't something I could control, it was just who I was. Piper gave me the info I needed by giving me a name, Nick Valentine. If I could find him, there was a good chance he'd be able to track down my son. He was a detective after all. I thanked her by robbing her blind. But plot twist. Nick was gone. In fact, he'd been gone for a while, which meant that I'd have to find a man who would, in turn, help me find my son? Didn't make much sense to me, but whatever, buddy. I ended up tracking Nick down to a local vault, and the battle that ensued there was legendary. I burned man after man as I ventured deeper and deeper into the vault. I was holding out well, and it looked like my mission was going to be successful, but at a certain point, I completely ran out of Molotovs and grenades and had no choice but to return to the surface. That was the annoying thing about this challenge. I'd spend a good half hour collecting all kinds of different throwables, mostly Molotovs, and when I actually got into a fight, I'd end up using them all up right away. I could have brought a companion with me, sure, but I didn't want to do that. That would essentially be cheating, and I was a man of honor. So yeah, I went back to Diamond City, gaining an insane 14 Molotovs to use, and returned to that tunnel brimming with bloodlust. I couldn't wait to inhale the smell of grown men burning alive, to hear the ear-piercing screams of pain as they begged for their mommies to come and save them. Defeating them all was almost too easy, and I made sure their boss was burnt to a crisp. To my surprise, Nick was an android. He tried telling me why the guys in the tunnel had kidnapped him, but to be honest, I didn't really care. All I knew was that it was time to leave. Thankfully, Nick did a lot of the heavy lifting as we escaped, and right up until the end, things were going just fine. Then, we came across Skinny Malone and his goonies, the man responsible for kidnapping Nick in the first place. He tried to make some big villain speech about how he'd been crossed for the last time, blah blah blah. Grenade!
You have any idea?
Should have reacted quicker to my grenade, Malone. That's what you get for being a yapper. When we got back to good old Diamond City, I told Nick about everything. The vault, my son, the color of my underwear. If even the most unnecessary of details could help the case, I'd spill it. Nick told me that the color of my underwear wasn't really gonna help his investigation. However, the rest of the stuff was good, and he had one name in mind: Kellogg. He was definitely the man who had kidnapped my son. And to top it all off, he knew exactly where Kellogg was. He was located in some kind of android factory, and dog meat would happily show me the way. I didn't really believe a dog was capable of bringing me to where I wanted to go, but because Nick didn't seem to want to take me, I didn't really have any other choice. Dog meat and I were off. We came across a few struggles here and there, and I still had my doubts about the little guy, but overall, things went pretty smoothly. And after a whole day of traveling, we finally made it. In this building was Kellogg, the man who had kidnapped my boy. I could not wait to shove a grenade up his ass. But there was something wrong. There was something in this building with me. Something inhuman. I was careful as I tiptoed my way around, looting as I went, and when I saw my opportunity, I took it.
In the name of the Earl, I'm... Oh! Ah, it burns! I'm on fire!
My enemies? They were synths. No. Did Nick set me up? Was he working with Kellogg all along? If he preferred his butt not to have grenades shoved into them, he better not be. Anyway, Nick's loyalty wasn't my priority right now. Kellogg was close, and his ass came first. I ran downstairs and began looking for the guy, and I was killed instantly. God damn, synths are kind of OP, huh? So I tried again, this time going for the Nike method instead of trying to fight back. And like always, it worked. After many near deaths, and after getting deeper into the compound, I finally came face to face with the man himself, Kellogg, and he was willing to talk. So alright. Right off the bat, I asked him where the hell my son was. Kellogg dodged my question, but he did say that Sean was a bit older since I last saw him. Yeah, no shit, dumbass. That's how time works. You think I'm stupid or something, huh? I told Kellogg to lead me to him. He declined, saying my son was at the Institute, and when I asked how the hell I'd find the Institute, Kellogg told me you don't find the Institute finds you. Yeah, I had enough of this shit. I told Kellogg I was leaving in peace, then pulled the pin from one of my grenades and launched it at the guy. And let's just say, he wasn't prepared for such an awesome surprise attack. I threw another grenade at him just to make sure he was dead, then I looted him for everything he had. Unknown to me though, this was only the beginning. When I returned to the outside world, a massive airship came out of nowhere and announced to everyone that the Brotherhood was in town. I didn't know what the hell was going on, and to be honest, I didn't really give a damn. All I cared about was finding more information on my baby boy. So I returned to Diamond City and had a talk with Nick, and he told me that I could get some info from a woman named Dr. Amari in Good Neighbor. I followed his advice and showed up to Good Neighbor. Immediately, some guy threatened to rob me. I told him that he was now my property and that he'd be wearing a chain from here on out, and then some random guy came out of nowhere and absolutely butchered the guy. Now, Good Neighbor was an amazing place, if you're willing to overlook the brutal murders, of course. This place had 2 stores right next to each other that sold tons of Throwables ripe for the picking. Hell, the robot store had tons of merchandise ripe for the picking too, all free. I even sold it all right back to her. And I think she was flirting with me. Hell yeah, this was a place I could get used to. I found Dr. Amari in a local brothel. We chatted it up.
Could you say that like Dr. Frankenstein?
Ego, fetch me the brain.
No.
And I delved into Kellogg's memories. There, I learned that my infant son was actually a fully grown boy named Sean, and that teleporting was the only way to get to the Institute. When I exited the memory machine, Amari told me that I could technically get into the Institute to rescue my son, but the only good way to do that would be to build a teleporter from scratch. I couldn't believe my damn ears. This doctor lady expected me, a complete and utter lobotomite who'd only just arrived in this world a few days ago, to build a Star Trek level teleporter with the scraps and rusted pieces of metal lying around on the ground? Ain't no way. Seeing the horror in my face, Amari suggested I fight one of the Institute guys and get the blueprints from him. So, alright, I made my way to a robotics factory in the middle of a deserted city, murdered everyone who came within a 50-meter radius of me, and finally came across the man I was looking for. He asked me what I wanted.
I'm here to pick up an order. 2 large pepperoni and a calzone. Name is Fuck You.
Now, surprisingly, this little dork was actually pretty difficult to fight. Not only did he turn invisible, he also had a crap ton of health, and the guy was using stimpaks like there was no tomorrow. Absolutely no shame. I mean, I wasn't lacking in the Throwables department or anything like that, but still, the stuff didn't come cheap. I must have wasted 1,000 caps worth of stuff on this little soy boy. He was no match for my endless barrage of explosives, though. Like Kellogg, I blew off one of his arms and legs and stripped him down to his underwear. He may have only been a synth, but that didn't mean I was willing to let him get away without being humiliated. Sadly, the robot guy didn't have the blueprints to the teleporter I was looking for, but he did have the map to the railroad, and apparently that was a group that could help me build one. So I left that place, followed the trail to this railroad organization, and came across an old rundown church. Inside were a few ghouls I had to take care of, but other than that, there wasn't anything interesting, or at least that was what I thought. Look, it's a secret basement leading into a secret tomb, and my god, it's a puzzle wall. Finally, this is the kind of stuff I like. And I solved it my first try. Suffering from success over here. When I walked into the hidden room, I was greeted by a whole wall of guns, and woman leader? I decided to keep my opinions to myself. Anyway, the woman grilled me pretty hard. She clearly didn't like me and was a step away from having her boys blow me away. But then, this random bro had my back out of nowhere and said that I was actually a pretty cool guy. I'd never met this man in my entire life, but I wasn't about to let Miss Triggerfinger know that. After a long talk, it seemed the woman, named Desdemona, was willing to let me check the place out. For the next few minutes, I toured the shithole they called the base, stole anything that wasn't bolted to the floor, and even handed over the robot guy's brain chip so the railroad could get started on my teleporter. All I had to do now was wait. Right before I headed out though, the bro who saved my butt before, Deacon, asked me if I was willing to join their organization, to which I said,
No, I'm not.
I told him that these people were all posers and that I'd rather die than have to suck up to the likes of them. He understood and told me that if I ever changed my mind, I'd be welcome to come back. That was all well and good, but then I realized the main mission marker was still over his head. So I told him that actually I had a change of heart and that I'd be joining them after all. Deacon was over the moon. He explained some of the finer details to me and then asked me the most important question. Was I willing to fight the Institute? Oh God, what was the right answer here? I didn't care what I told him as long as it was whatever he wanted to hear. So I told him that I didn't want to fight the Institute and that morally killing robots was wrong.
All right. That I wasn't expecting. We really aren't a good fit.
No! Wait. I take it back. Robots are terrible and they deserve the most brutal deaths imaginable. Long story short, I was now part of the railroad, baby. First things first was to go and get the accentuator for the teleporter. I met up with the Deacon in the middle of the night and we traveled across the wasteland in search of a synth base. We were able to get in through a back door and after using some epic gamer hacks, we were in. The synths weren't very happy about this. They desperately fought back, trying their best to take us out, but it was pointless. We were just way too strong. This continued on for a while. We'd clear out a room of enemies, I'd get all the good loot to sell for later, we'd come across a new batch of bad guys, Deacon would get the living hell beat out of him, and we'd move on. The further we got into the base, the more creeped out I got. Where in the hell was the accentuator? Oh God, how do I, oh jeez, oh no, now we're locked out. Maybe there's some clues around this corner. Oh God, oh Jesus, kill him, Deacon, kill him! Okay, it was time to get the hell out of here. Oh! There's the accentuator. The mission was a success. All that was left to do was report to Desdemona.
Deacon told me you single-handedly secured Carrington's prototype, disabled a minefield, and wiped out 100 Gen 1s. So is any of that true?
Every word he said was true. And then some.
Man, Deacon was glazing the hell out of me, and I was all for it. Desdemona awarded me a medal for bravery and officially welcomed me to the railroad as a senior member. Hell yes. Now that that was taken care of, it was time to get the teleporter built. This involved a lot of shenanigans and skullduggery, and to be honest, this mission was a complete waste of my natural talents. But at the end of the day, someone had to be the one to build the damn thing, and really, who better than me? So in preparation for this journey, I went around the wasteland buying as many Molotovs and grenades as I possibly could, and at the end of it all, I had over 40 throwables in total. This may not sound like a lot to you, but trust me, after basically having to beg for scraps since the very beginning, I was drowning in wealth at this point. Not much happened over the next 2 hours. I invaded an enemy's base, murdered every single one of them, tore everything down, caught one of the homies lacking.
The only way you get old in this job is assume everyone's out to kill you.
Came across something I never thought I'd see. I mean, what kind of a psychopath sleeps without a blanket? And by God, that mattress is filthy. And they're both men. Why, I oughta... This is the 50s, I hope you know. Anyway, we got the teleporter working and I was sent to the Institute. And my God, the place was futuristic as hell. It had computers and chromium walls and a spinning elevator. And you'll never guess who I found locked up in the basement. It was my little boy. It was Sean. Finally, after all these years, he was back in my arms. And yep, just as I always prayed, He definitely took after his mother. Thank God. I told my son that I'd kill the people who kidnapped him, that I wouldn't stop until their intestines were wrapped around the place like party streamers, that I'd tear them apart from the inside out and dance in their entrails. And my little boy called for help. He called me a monster and begged for someone to protect him. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My son betrayed me. Then some old guy appeared out of nowhere and hypnotized my son. Don't you touch him!
Please try and keep an open mind.
I am open-minded. There was something familiar about this old guy though. What was it? Why was I so attached to him? Before I could figure it out, he told me that he was my real son and that the boy in the pod was just a synth. But that made no damn sense. He was an old geezer, a dementia-ridden husk who probably didn't even know where he was half the time. How was he my baby boy? But then my memory turned back and I remembered. It was the cryogenic chamber. I hadn't been asleep for 10 years. No. I'd been asleep for 60. Sean was in love with the synths and would do anything to protect them. So since I was his father, he asked me if I'd be willing to join him. I declined, saying that robots didn't deserve human rights. Disappointed by this, Sean told me to leave and never come back. Well, that wasn't good. Not if I wanted to get in the good graces of the railroad. I was supposed to destroy the Institute and wipe out the synths. So, I told him that I actually changed my mind and that robots did deserve to live and have human rights. And that was it. I was in, baby. Now that Sean had welcomed me in with open arms, I knew I had to start thinking about how I'd betray him. Sure, my entire journey up to this point had revolved around me finding him, and I finally did, but my little boy was gone now, replaced by a crazy old man who had delusional fantasies about robots. They weren't people. They didn't deserve rights. So why was he fighting so hard for them, huh? It just didn't make any sense. My boy was corrupted. But then I remembered.
Evil, 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 evil.
Codsworth, what the hell are you doing? Codsworth, that little snake. I never should have let him get close to my boy. He put evil ideas in his head and corrupted his innocent little brain. My blood, tainted by the opposing side. It was in that moment I came to the realization that it was my fatherly duty, my obligation, to destroy everything Sean had built over the last few years. And if it came down to it, I'd even kill him too. For now though, I'd play along. I'd do some work, get on Sean's good side, and when he least expected it, I'd stab him in the back. It was a brilliant plan, one I knew would work. Trying his best to bond with me, Sean gave me a tour of the Institute and showed me how they were attempting to change the world. The synths were studying microorganisms for different kinds of medicines, they were creating radiation-free plants for the world above, and they were attempting to figure out how to clean the world's contaminated oceans on a massive scale. It was all a joke. These savages weren't gonna blind me with their acts of philanthropy. I wasn't gonna fall for it. When Sean wasn't looking, I hacked into one of the local computers, planted a bug for the railroad, and met up with a man on the inside. He was a synth who was against the Institute, and he was willing to help me every step of the way. I returned to the railroad and debriefed the situation to everyone, telling them about how Sean trusted me and that I had free access into the Institute whenever I saw fit. Everyone cheered and we began formulating our plans immediately. First things first was to remove the bulk of the Institute's military, who just so happened to be posted up in the mines. They also just so happened to be lined up right next to each other, and I just so happened to accidentally drop a Molotov on them, and then a grenade. Woo! Glory to the humans! Yeah! It was a good start to the revolution, but there was still much to be done. I continued being a good spy, making plans with the synth traders, being sarcastic to my son every chance I had, and preparing for the epic battle that was bound to unfold down the line. But there was still one major issue in our way, and that was the Brotherhood of Steel. If we fought the Institute and won, the Brotherhood would just sweep in and destroy us while we were weak. So, it was decided that we would destroy the Brotherhood before anything else, and the only way to do that would be to destroy their massive blimp fortress. Me and my boy X688 pulled up to the docks and fought with everything we had. I was murdering people left and right, looting ammo caches, doing parkour, and when I finally got to the end of that boat maze, I came across some Mad Max looking motherfucker. All I had to do after that was use a sleep spell to take out the leader of the establishment. And after torturing the guy for a few hours, we found out that the big Brotherhood building in the center of Boston was where they kept all of their reinforcements. So, I went there, wiped out every living thing that crossed my path, and, my god, it was a beryllium agitator. If this was placed in the reactor at the Institute, we could blow that place sky high. Easy. I snagged it and got out of there. When I returned to the railroad base, I told Desdemona about my awesome discovery, and she was all for it. If successful, we could guarantee the entire place would be annihilated at just the push of a button.
I am not gay.
But actually pulling off such a feat, was it even possible? How would I get access to the Institute's biggest vulnerability by far? And would they even allow me to pass by security with such a suspicious device? It just seemed flat out impossible. Of course, though, this is me we're talking about. I came up with a brilliant solution. What if I shoved the beryllium agitator deep into my ass where it couldn't be found? Then convinced my son to make a speech in the reactor room so that when his eyes were off me, I could plant it without his knowledge. The way I saw it, that was our only way forward. Everybody looked at me like I was crazy, but I still went for it anyway. There we were, in the reactor room up above the peasants, Sean ready to make his speech when my time came. I slipped behind him unnoticed, opened the reactor door, slipped the agitator out of me and into the machine, and I couldn't find a good way to close the door or stop the process at all. I probably should have thought that through better.
Warning. Warning. The Institute will be self-destructing in less than 10 minutes. I repeat, the Institute will be self-destructing in less than...
Oh god, oh shit, we're all dead. Oh, take cover. Oh god, pay attention.
Thank you.
By the luck of the gods, I was somehow able to put a stop to that situation. And guess what? It worked. Sure, my ass was now 3 times larger than it was the day before, but if this was what was needed to save the world, then it was worth it. But there was a big issue. For some strange reason, my son didn't trust me anymore. The next day, Sean pulled me aside and asked me once and for all who I was really fighting for. He'd seen how I acted since getting there, and it was clear that I didn't care about the synths one bit. It was time to come clean, so I did. I told Sean that I was on the synth side, not the railroads, and that the fact he doubted my loyalties was frankly insulting. He seemed embarrassed and tried apologizing, but I didn't accept it. Not after being disrespected like that. Have a little faith in daddy, huh, Gramps? This little weirdo was eyeing me after I beat on my son, so I punched him too. That whole place was filled with dirty, stinky synths, and they needed a cleansing. So you know what? It was time. I headed right back to the railroad and told Desdemona that we needed to strike now, while the iron was hot, and she agreed. But then we were attacked. It was none other than the Brotherhood, and somehow they found a way into our base. They wanted revenge for everything we'd done to them, and they were there to put a stop to us once and for all. But they must have been drinking stupid juice, because we beat them back without even breaking a sweat. This was definitely a problem, though. We couldn't be fighting 2 battles at once, not if we wanted a chance of success. The Brotherhood's blimp, their headquarters, needed to be taken out. So I pulled up to one of their bases with my boys Tinker, Tom, and Deacon. We wiped the base from the map. I got Deacon to take out the vertibird since there wasn't much I could do about it. We stole the other vertibird that was on the roof, and we used it to sneak onto the main airship. And after sabotaging the gas supply and bouncing out of there, the entirety of the Brotherhood was toast. You'd, think they'd have better defenses than that. I mean, I just kind of walked in there and destroyed one of the most powerful groups in the wasteland with 3 valve turns. God damn. All that was left was the Institute. We teleported there as a team, and I got to work immediately, blowing up the innocent scientist, playing frisbee with the security guards, and even coming across my own son on his deathbed. Apparently, he'd had cancer this entire time, and he was waiting for the right moment to tell me. He told me about how proud he was to have me as a father, and that if things were different...
I'll see you in the nightosphere, you sick freak.
I mean, come on. What, did he think I was gonna stop the whole revolution and apologize for my terrible parenting because he had a little bit of cancer? Hell no. Throwing a mine next to his head was the best parenting decision I ever made. Filicide for the win, baby. There was only one thing left to do. Activate the accentuator. But before I was able to do that, my fraud of a son came up to me and begged me to take him back. Whoa, wait a minute. You mean the robot kid who rejected me earlier? The one who was role-playing as my sweet, sweet boy? Ain't no way. So, like any good father, I stood there, looked deep into those desperate eyes, and gave him my answer.
I'll see you in the nightosphere, you sick freak.
Woo! I did it! Yeah! The Institute and the Brotherhood of Steel were completely wiped from the map, and we were the top dogs in town now. What a day. But you know what? That just wasn't good enough. As I looked out on the city before me, a twinkle in my eye and a feeling of ambition in my chest, I realized that the railroad was also my enemy. And as it just so happened, the entirety of their highest ranks were on that roof with me, basking in the glory of our victory. Say hello, world, to your new dictator, Eugene von Krakatoa. So yeah, I beat Fallout 4 with only Throwables. If you guys enjoyed this video, subscribe to me, make sure to click that bell or else you pretty well aren't subscribed to me, and I'll see you all in the next one.